Hey everyone, ready to turbocharge your learning?
Always.
Today we're diving deep into Bogdan Yuncevich's 10 Steps to Learn Anything Faster, and let me tell you, this guy's story is incredible.
Yeah, pretty unconventional background.
He dropped out of high school at 13, but then dedicated his life to, well, figuring out how to achieve anything. Now he's a best-selling author, international speaker.
The whole 9 yards.
Exactly. And his book is packed with actionable strategies like, get this, falling in love with feedback. Who does that?
Right.
We'll unpack that gem and a whole lot more.
We'll also be looking at how to model success, prime our minds for learning like athletes before a game.
And even turn failure into, well, not a disaster.
More like a stepping stone.
Exactly. So let's jump right in. This first step, model success, it's all about, like, not reinventing the wheel.
Exactly. Find someone who's already mastered what you want to learn and study their methods.
Kind of like reverse engineering their success.
It's a strategy that's been used by high achievers throughout history. Think Michelangelo studying Roman sculptures or...
Steve Jobs shadowing those Xerox engineers.
Exactly.
So instead of starting from scratch, we should be looking for mentors, teachers.
Anyone who's already blazed the trail we want to follow.
Juncevich tells this great story about a young entrepreneur he mentored who wanted to launch a tech startup.
Oh, yeah, I remember that one. Instead of, just diving into coding manuals, Juncevich had him analyze successful tech CEOs.
Like their presentations, interviews, even their failures, right?
Everything. And the entrepreneur ended up raising millions in funding because he understood the landscape before even writing a line of code.
Wow. Talk about a competitor edge. Makes you think, who are the masters in our own fields?
Right. Who can we learn from?
Okay, this next step, fall in love with feedback. I'll admit, it threw me off at first. I mean, feedback's usually not exactly pleasant.
Yeah, fall in love might be a bit strong.
It is. But Juncevich makes the point that feedback, even criticism, is crucial for growth.
Like a compass, it helps us course correct.
He even shares this crazy anecdote about David Copperfield, the illusionist, asking a janitor for feedback on one of his tricks.
Wow. Talk about humility.
Right. Shows that valuable insights can come from unexpected sources.
And sometimes the most honest feedback comes from those who aren't afraid to tell it like it is.
So how do we get better at, well, not dreading feedback?
Juncevich says it's about shifting our perspective. Instead of seeing it as a personal attack, we need to view it as valuable data.
Like a scientist analyzing results.
Exactly. Ask clarifying questions. Seek diverse perspectives.
Don't just passively wait for it, actively seek it out.
Right. The more feedback you gather, the clearer your path to mastery becomes.
Makes sense. And it leads us to, well, maybe not everyone's favorite topic. Realize failure is a stepping stone. Failure.
Not exactly a fun concept, but...
Juncevich argues it's an essential part of the learning process. I mean, think about learning to ride a bike.
Lots of scrapes and bruises along the way, right?
Exactly. Each stumble, each fall brought us closer to, well, not falling anymore.
Juncevich encourages us to adopt what's called a growth mindset.
Really?
Instead of seeing abilities as fixed, we see them as something we can develop through effort and learning.
So instead of getting discouraged, we ask, okay, what did I learn from this? How can I do better next time?
Exactly.
Which brings us to a step I'm personally a huge fan of. Track your progress.
What gets measured gets managed, right?
Absolutely. And Juncevich mentions this fascinating weight loss study where participants simply tracked their food and exercise, no big changes, and they started losing weight.
Just from increased awareness.
Amazing. But how do we apply this to learning? Journals, apps.
Could be anything. Find a system that works for you and stick with it.
Consistently monitoring our efforts helps us see our strengths and weaknesses, adjust our approach.
And stay motivated.
So it's about making the invisible visible. Now, this next step, remove confusion, seems straightforward, but how does it apply to learning exactly?
Well, Juncevich argues that confusion is like a roadblock, a major one, to effective learning.
Like trying to read a map in a different language.
Exactly. He suggests taking time to create a learning map before diving into a new subject.
Outlining goals, identifying resources.
And anticipating potential roadblocks.
So, strategy before the deep dive.
Exactly. By removing confusion, we create a smoother, more efficient learning experience.
Now, Juncevich also talks about the pre-learning state, which is a fancy way of saying.
Our mental and emotional state before we even start learning impacts how much we absorb.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Ever try to study for an exam when you're stressed out? It's like trying to squeeze water from a stone.
Juncevich says we should take a cue from high achievers.
Athletes with their pregame rituals, musicians warming up,
Exactly. Find your own pre-learning ritual.
something to get in the zone, right?
It could be listening to music, meditating, even just taking a few deep breaths.
Whatever works. Setting the stage for success. Now, does our physical environment matter too? Like where we choose to learn?
Absolutely. Jonsovich calls it creating a realistic environment. We learn best when we practice in an environment that simulates real-world application.
Like those flight simulators for pilots.
Exactly. So, if you're learning a language, try having conversations with native speakers. Immerse yourself in films, music.
Make it real.
Exactly.
Which brings us to get coaching. It's fascinating how many top performers have coaches.
Think Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant.
They all had coaches guiding them.
Jonsovich emphasizes that a coach provides an external perspective, objective feedback,
They help us see our blind spots.
and they push us beyond our comfort zones.
So who could be our coach in our learning journeys? It could be a mentor, a teacher.
Even a peer. The key is to find someone who challenges and supports you.
Now, this next step is a big one for me. Create momentum. Celebrate small wins.
Acknowledging progress, no matter how small,
It keeps us motivated.
and reinforces those positive behaviors.
Jonsovich explains that it's about rewiring our brains for success. Every time we celebrate a win, we reinforce those neural pathways linked to positive outcomes.
Makes it more likely we'll repeat those actions in the future.
Love that. Okay, last step for this part of our deep dive, and ironically, it's all about slowing down. Immersive, intervaled, intentional resting.
3 eyes. Easy to remember.
Jonsovich is saying that rest is not laziness, but a strategic part of learning and performance.
Like recovery time for athletes.
So we need to treat rest like an essential part of our training.
Exactly. And it's not just about quantity, it's about quality. Immersive rest means disconnecting completely.
Give your brain a break.
Intervalled means taking breaks throughout the day to avoid mental fatigue.
And intentional means planning for downtime instead of waiting until we're burned out.
Schedule it in like an important appointment.
So we've covered the first 5 steps of Jonsovich's framework. Model success, fall in love with feedback, realize failure is a stepping stone, track your progress, and remove confusion.
Followed by understanding our pre-learning state, creating a realistic environment, getting coaching, creating momentum by celebrating small wins.
And finally, immersive, intervaled, intentional resting.
It's a lot to take in, but even implementing a few of these steps can significantly improve our learning.
I'm already seeing new possibilities.
Me too.
Welcome back, everyone. Ready for round 2?
Bring it on.
All right, so where were we? Yes. Insist 10 steps to learn anything faster. We've already tackled the first 5.
And now we're diving into the next 5, which are just as powerful, maybe even more so.
Okay, so step number 6, embrace the power of questions. It sounds simple enough, right? We all ask questions.
We do, but Jonsovich argues that asking the right questions is as important as finding the answers.
So it's not just about asking any old question, it's about being strategic, deliberate.
Exactly. He actually compares it to being a detective solving a case.
Intriguing. So how do we channel our inner Sherlock Holmes?
By asking why, relentlessly challenging assumptions, not just taking information at face value.
Digging deeper, getting to the root of things.
Exactly. He shares this example of a young girl who was fascinated by dinosaurs. But instead of just reading about them, she bombarded everyone with questions.
Like, why did some dinosaurs have long necks? How did they eat?
And her relentless curiosity actually led her to become a leading paleontologist.
Yeah. Wow. It's a reminder that questions are the engine of discovery.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Okay, step 7, spaced repetition.
This one sounds a bit more technical.
It is. It's all about leveraging the science of memory to make learning stick.
So no more cramming all night before a test.
Well, cramming might get you through the test, but it won't lead to long-term retention. Spaced repetition is about reviewing information at increasing intervals.
Kind of like revisiting a favorite book every few months to refresh your memory.
Exactly. And there are tools to help us with this, right?
Yeah, like flashcards, spaced repetition software. They help us schedule those review sessions so we don't forget what we've learned.
It's like building a mental muscle. Step 8, teach what you learn. This one seems a bit counterintuitive.
Right. Why teach something if we're still learning it ourselves?
But I've heard that saying, the best way to learn something is to teach it.
Exactly. Jonsovich argues that when we teach, we're forced to organize our thoughts, clarify our understanding.
It solidifies the learning in a way that just passive reading or listening can't.
And you don't have to become a professor or anything.
You could explain a concept to a friend, write a blog post, create a video.
The act of teaching itself is the key.
Okay, step 9, embrace the power of storytelling. Now this one speaks to me. Who doesn't love a good story?
Right. But how does this apply to learning?
Well, Jinkovich says our brains are wired for stories. We remember them better than just facts and figures.
Think about how easily you can recall the plot of your favorite movie or book.
Exactly. Stories stick with us, so how can we use this to our advantage?
By weaving stories into our learning, let's say you're studying history, imagine yourself living in that era. What would your life be like?
What would you wear? What would you eat? What challenges would you face?
It brings history to life
Makes it personal.
and memorable.
Okay, final step. Step number 10, cultivate a growth mindset community. This one's all about, well, the power of connection, right?
Absolutely. Surrounding ourselves with people who inspire us to learn and grow.
Juncevich tells this inspiring story about a group of students who formed a study group. They weren't the top students, but their collective commitment to learning, to supporting each other, it helped them all excel.
Is proof that we're stronger together.
So where do we find these growth mindset communities?
They're everywhere. Online forums, local meetups, book clubs, even just a group of friends who share your passion for learning.
Find your tribe, the people who challenge and support you on your learning journey.
It makes the journey more enjoyable and ultimately more successful.
So there you have it, the final 5 steps of Jincevich's 10 steps to learn anything faster. Embrace the power of questions, spaced repetition, teach what you learn, embrace the power of storytelling, and cultivate a growth mindset community.
Powerful stuff.
Definitely a lot to unpack, but incredibly valuable insights.
It's a framework that can truly transform the way we learn.
I'm feeling inspired.
Me too.
You know, it's amazing how much of effective learning comes down to mindset.
Right, like it's not just about the information itself.
It's about how we approach it, our attitude.
Absolutely, and Jinkovich really drives that point home throughout the book.
That whole idea of embracing failure as a stepping stone, I think that's so powerful.
Yeah, it's easy to get bogged down by setbacks.
But what if we reframe them as opportunities?
That's the power of a growth mindset. It turns those challenges into learning experiences.
Remember that story Juncevich told about the entrepreneur studying the failures of successful CEOs?
Yeah, that was a good one.
It's like he was mining those failures for insights.
Exactly like turning those setbacks into a roadmap for success.
And it's not just about learning from our own mistakes or even just from the mistakes of others.
Right, it's about actively seeking feedback, asking questions.
And surrounding ourselves with people who inspire us to grow.
I think that's a key takeaway from Juncevich's book, The Importance of a Growth Mindset Community.
It's like having a support system, a team of people who are on this learning journey with us.
It makes the journey less daunting and more enjoyable.
More like an adventure.
Exactly.
So which of Juncevich's steps are you most excited to put into practice? I'm really drawn to the idea of using storytelling.
Oh yeah, embrace the power of storytelling.
It just makes sense. Our brains are wired for stories. We remember them.
They make information more engaging, more relatable.
It's like turning data into something that our brains can actually grab onto.
And what about you? Is there a step that particularly resonated with you?
I think for me, it's cultivate a growth mindset community. It's a good reminder that we don't have to do this alone.
Absolutely. Finding those people who challenge and support us can make all the difference.
So to everyone listening out there, we encourage you to embrace these 10 steps.
Experiment with them. See what works for you.
And most importantly, never stop learning.
The world is full of amazing things to discover.
And remember, the power to learn is within each of us.
It's just waiting to be unlocked.
Until next time, happy learning.